welcome to Creating in Color, sharing the creative endeavors of people of color. I'm your host, Kaybe, and today I'm joined with Judy Yang, a dialogue and animatic editor whose past projects include Dino Trucks, Spirit Riding Free, Fast and Furious Spy Racers, and Star Trek Lower Decks. How are you today, Judy?
Hi, Kaybe. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. You're a dialogue and animatic editor. Do you mind going into detail on what that position is?
Yeah, sure thing. So, in the production pipeline, there's several steps in creating a show, and dialogue editors actually comes before animatic editors. So, I'm going to go over that one first. So, as a dialogue editor, we are actually one of the first people to kind of creatively assemble the episode. So, basically, what happens is the show is first started with written script by the writers, and after the script gets approved, the lines will then be recorded in the sound studio by the actor and actresses. And usually these records are run by showrunners, producers, voice directors, and probably a few other people. And know that at this time the show is still very early and we are still trying to figure out what the episode will look and feel like. So you'll always have the actor and actresses do several takes of the same lines. Then, after the audio has been recorded, that's where the dialogue editor comes in. And we, as dialogue editors, will then listen to all the different takes of the record, and oftentimes we would get the first pick on which line gets picked, which take gets picked, and we will also run through all the different takes with the showrunner, and through several revisions and reviews, we then produce this thing called the radio play. The radio play, it's basically a radio version of the episode. Usually it has all the dialogue timed out and paced out in exactly how the episode would be, and it's just without drawings. So the radio play is it's basically the art product of what the dialogue editor produces, which then get passed down to the next stage of the production pipeline to the storyboard artist.
Oh, interesting. From your experience with past projects, are they a common thing or is it dependent on the project?
It really depends on the project. My time when I was at DreamWorks, the dialogue editors there actually did not create radio plays. Dialogue editors there would comb through the different takes of the recorded audio. But in the end, they actually only pass the selected take to the board artist. So they don't actually create a radio play there. After I came to Titmouse, the dialogue editors here, we create radio plays, and I've been on several shows here, and different shows requires different type of radio play. On Star Trek Lower Decks, they requested us to do a more extended radio play where it includes all the audio of the lines, and they also wanted sound effects and they wanted music to get an overall feel of the show. With that said, when you have something that's a little more built out, it gives less creative freedom to the next part of the pipeline, but it also helps the execs and the people up top to better visualize and see what we are going to be producing for them. So it just really depends on the management and then the team that you're working with. There's different ways of doing things, but they're all good. Get the job done.
And how would you describe an animatic editor?
Animatic editors. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just really. I have to catch my breath because I'm actually really excited to talk about animatic editing.
Take your time.
So animatic editors, it's a lot of fun being an animatic editor. It's another step along the process of creating a cartoon. So it is the step that comes after storyboards. So just like how the dialogue editor takes the script and create the radio play, and then the board artist takes the radio play and use that as a reference to create storyboards, we animatic editors take the storyboards and the audio that was created previously, and we create animatics. And each step is to further enhance and shape the episode. As an animatic editor, I work very closely with my storyboard director. Also with our showrunner, we have edit sessions and meetings all the time. And what we're doing in these meetings is basically going over and basically trying to figure out the best way to represent what we're trying to talk about, what we're trying to show for this episode we're creating. Because as an animatic editor, once we are finished with it, it gets locked. We then send it to animation for creating the animated art. But we are the last stage of creating and kind of massaging this episode.
It's very interesting because you kind of are on either side of storyboarding. So you start with the dialogue, editing, and creating the radio play, passing it off to the board artist, and then you get it right back as an animatic editor. Are you ever surprised by what the board artist has done with your radio play? Or are you just like, yes, yes, same wavelength, nice?
Uh, yeah, definitely. Definitely feel both ways. There are times where I'll get the exact same thing that I was visualizing during radio play stage, and I'll get it during animatics. I'll be like, oh, we're thinking of the same thing. Perfect. And it's funny and it works. And then there are other times where I would get some visuals back that is even funnier and more than what I was imagining during the radio play stage. For example, let's say there's a script of a scene of a guy waking up frantically, running down the hall, getting ready to go to work, and grabbing his coffee and trying to get out of the house. So, as a dialogue editor, I might, have him get up. I'll add some alarm sound effects. I'll add some frantic footstep running around, and then I'll have him like grab like pots. You can hear the pots, and then him pour in his coffee, and then the door closes. He opens, closes, and he's out of the house. That's what I can imagine and add the sound effects for. When the board artists take it, one time I saw that the freaking guy wasn't just running out of the house frantically, like his pants were falling down. And he's trying to pull up his pants, his belt's like not really buckling, and he's trying to do all that while he's grabbing the coffee pot. And with that, I was like, oh my God, that's so good. Like this guy just doesn't have it together at all. So, with that, I can enhance it even more by adding more zipper sounds or like adding more different sound effects. And maybe he's knocking things off and off screen. And then I might add like some like things falling over sound effects. And so, yeah, in cases like that, it's good to see what other people are visualizing because you can really like get more out of it.
Do you ever run into any struggles creating the timing for the radio play? Because you described all these steps of this guy waking up, getting coffee, getting dressed, and walking out the door. How do you know how to time it perfectly from point A, B, and C without seeing it visually?
An editing trick that I do is I would close my eyes and I would visualize it in my head. And then I would kind of, as like, I don't know if you've ever been in the Premiere project, but for example, you could, as the playhead is moving, you can kind of make markers to like indicate where you think the pot would fall and how long it takes for like him to like run across the room. Like it helps for me to close my eyes and visualize all those things and imagine them in my head without having distractions. Yeah, and honestly, there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's a creative process. You kind of just have to give it your own style, give it your own pacing, and different type of shows have different pacing. Like if you look at Rick and Morty, that show is so fast. They go really fast, kind of like SpongeBob, so fast. Everything goes so quickly. That pacing is completely different from, I don't know, what's a movie? Can't even think of a movie that's slower right now because I've been working on only fast ones. But like even like between like looking at Spirit Riding Free, it's a little more about the story rather than gags. So the pacing of that is a lot slower. But yeah, it helps to close your eyes and visualize it yourself.
So, how is an animatic editor different from a post editor?
So animatic editors are very different from a post editor. I can't say specifically because I've never done post editing before, but I think for most people, when they think of editors, they think of post, but not in the animation industry. In the animation industry, there's actually pre-production editing and post-editing, and dialogue and animatic editing are both in pre-production. And it's considered pre-production because everything that is done before animation is prepping for what the final look of the show is going to be. So we're all part of the outline that the animation team will then follow. So it's very different. There's a lot more creative output that you could put into it. Whereas for post editing, I've never done it. I don't quite understand. I think what they do is they get to take the final picture that an animation team have created, and then they get to be the one that kind of put it all together at the very end and do final tweaks. But again, as you go further down the pipeline, you kind of you don't get as much creative freedom to shape the episode. So post picture editor, I believe they get the final touches, whereas we get the earlier touches.
Do you think you'd ever be interested in post editing?
Yeah, definitely. I'm always looking to try different things. Honestly, post editing, I think they make more money too. So, so I'm definitely down for that. But yeah, I actually started off as an animatic editor, and I was never considering doing dialogue editing. But when that opportunity came up, I tried it, and it was really fun. I have to admit, my heart is still with animatics, and with the limited knowledge of what I have on post editing, I definitely would love to try it and give it a go. But I still think I would like animatics better. But yeah, I'm always down to try different things.
Good attitude.
Thanks.
What does your daily routine look like?
Every day is a little different just because there's several moving pieces happening all the time. In a TV setting, could be working on several episodes at one time. So depending on my schedule, I usually try to prioritize the closer deadline. So, meeting deadline is really important. But for the most part, I am editing and I'm definitely communicating a lot with my director and the production team. As a creative, I also, it's so important. I emphasize this that I do watch a lot of YouTube and Netflix and TV shows just because you need to get ideas and different inspirations on how other editors do their work and why their cuts and their the things they do work so well. So I definitely do watch a lot of different references.
What is your approach to your assignments? Do you feel it changes based on the different projects?
Yeah, so the first thing that I always do is find out what type of show I'm working on. And let's say if the show has a sequel or if it's based off of an existing film, I definitely would spend hours and hours watching the movies just to try to understand the world. Because you have to be prepared to be flexible in the creative techniques when you start on the show. And every show is different. So, for example, I was hired for Fast and Furious, the TV show, and that is definitely not my type of show. And I've never seen the movies before. So, literally, after I was hired, I binged all 5 movies in a weekend. Thank goodness that I did because I learned so much about how cars sound and revving sounds and engines and different type of vehicle sounds that I needed to know to be an efficient editor on that show. Same goes for Star Trek Lower Decks. When I was first hired on that, I have never seen Star Trek. And it was really important for me to know the characters and know the world because they're going to be referencing a lot of it. So I spent hours just sitting there watching Star Trek Next Gen. And I don't know about you, but if you're not a Star Trek fan, you've never seen Star Trek. Star Trek's Next Gen is really, really slow and hard to watch. But I had to do it because it was part of my work. And I'm so glad I did because it allowed me to better understand the world and add the little subtleties of sound effects and pacing for the characters. And, I also got to appreciate the different Easter eggs and jokes that they write in the script. And then it just makes it that much more enjoyable.
Aww.
So, yeah, definitely do your researches.
What are some specific roadblocks that you try to watch out for?
Roadblocks. So we're always going to run into them. And, sometimes you're just going to work with people who aren't as ideal in your working style. And that's okay. It's going to happen. We jump from show to show all the time. And honestly, like the best way to handle it, in my opinion, is at that time, you just have to ask yourself, is it that our style isn't working, or is it that it's just different? Because we work in the creative industry, there's so many different ways to go about creativity. So if it's not working, if there's something that's just not working, even though it hurts, you just need to let it go and cut that scene that you've been working on for 5 hours and take someone else's approach. It's heartbreaking and it happens all the time, but that's okay. But like if you think about it, and if you're just like, it's not that it's not working, it's just different. If it's different, then don't be afraid to speak up and voice your opinion. Because honestly, like sometimes people just don't see other perspective until it's presented. And we're all so busy. There's so many moving parts all the time. And we all are here to create a great show. And it's hard for us to see different options unless it's told. So if you're working with the right people, they definitely want to hear your suggestions. So definitely speak up.
What support or resources do you recommend for someone trying to break in?
If you're still in school, definitely look into doing an internship. Even if you're not in school, I think there are programs where you can still sign up for internships. Because the animation industry is very competitive, it's actually really important to network. I actually started off with an internship myself my last year in college. And during that time, I learned a lot of things that they really just don't teach you in school. When people say that you learn the most out in the real world through experience, it's honestly true. And while I was interning, I actually met a lot of really talented artists and a lot of great management people. And I actually met a really great group of interns that were on the same boat as me. And then through that, everybody very quickly learned that everybody has their own stories and they have their own journeys. And I also found out that there's so much to learn. I don't know anything. So yeah, I definitely recommend doing an internship. And because it was also during that time I realized I want to be in production. When I was in production, I honestly learned so much about different pipelines and what it really means to be a storyboard artist or a designer or a CG artist, animation supervisor. Like really learn what all these roles mean. And I wouldn't have found out that I could be in a position where I can learn about that if I didn't take that internship.
So, would you recommend people start in production?
Oh yeah, I highly recommend it. Honestly, like if you have the opportunity to start in production as a PA, I say definitely take it because not only do you get to get your foot in the door and start network with people, and you also get to learn so much about how to create a show. And it doesn't really matter if you want to be in production or be an artist. Either way, as an artist, you can benefit so much for just understanding how the show is made. So that's my journey. A lot of people that I know started in production. So, like, don't take it lightly. Like, if you see a job for a PA position come up, definitely look into it. See if it's something that you can get into so you can start your career.
You said you were interested in getting in production when you were an intern. Did you start as a PA?
I did, but I actually wasn't able to till I think there was a couple years in between because after I interned on my last semester in school, but after I graduated, it was actually really difficult to find a job right away. So I started off with, tutoring kids and drawing. And then after a little bit, I needed to make some income. So I actually work at a furniture manufacturing store or company. I was actually there for like 2 years doing operations. Basically, I was a coordinator that kind of communicated with different departments and making sure shipments gets done, things gets purchased and stuff. Very similar to what a production team would do in a studio. Yeah, even though it was not animation related at all, I was able to learn a lot from that and take that experience with me when I got the opportunity to interview for a PA position. And, maybe my skills, my tasks didn't translate over one to one, but a lot of the skills and experience that I learned definitely helped, and people recognized it, and I got hired as a PA, and then it kind of all just went on from there.
To you, what does it mean to work in animation?
I just love making people happy and making people laugh. And to work in animation, it's in a way kind of doing that, being a part of this creative process. And we are able to communicate with our audience through cartoon, whether it's, making jokes, making them laugh, making them sad, and like making them feel something through this art that we're creating. Life is hard, the world is tough, but we all have to escape sometimes, whether if it's want to feel joy or we just want to feel something. And honestly, like I'm just really happy that the work that I create could do that for the audiences. Yeah, that's what I like about being animation.
Did you always know you wanted to get into animation, or did you have interest in other industries?
No, I did not know wanted to get into animation. And honestly, I actually wasn't even thinking about animation until I was applying for college.
Oh,
Um, yeah, I was always interested in art. When I was younger, I loved to draw, and I wasn't always good at communicating my feelings and emotions, especially when they're a little deeper, I guess, or emo. I guess, emo kids, we go through those phases.
yeah.
Yeah, so when I was younger, I always loved drawing, and that's just the way I knew how to express myself. And then, I don't want to be sad all the time, so I would watch cartoon, and I would like to draw cartoons and laugh, and it makes me happy. So I always knew I liked art, and I thought I would like fine arts because, beautiful artists expressing themselves through art. Then, like, also, I found out there was like animation industry. I didn't realize there was a job for creating cartoons. So when I found out there was that, I was like, "Hey, that sounds kind of cool. Why not give that a go?" So I kind of just was like, "Okay, I'll choose animation instead of fine arts for no reason." I was just like, "I'll just give that a go." And I wasn't sure at the time, but like I'm glad I did because I really enjoy being here and creating cartoons with my friends and sharing them with people.
Do you feel in order to be successful in this industry, you need to be an artist?
Definitely not. There's so many jobs that are non-creative in this industry. Some of those really amazing people that I know didn't even come from an art background, and they all started as PAs in production, and now they're running shows and managing people on projects like Shira, Troll Hunters. I think one of the Fast and Furious manager was also a non-creative, and actually, I think there's several. And then a bunch of them are at Netflix too. But like, definitely, there's so many different jobs. It's like a company. Instead of making furnitures or tables and chairs, we're making cartoons. So yeah, you don't have to be creative. It's an industry for everybody.
Judy,
Yes.
what was your upbringing like?
Oh, that's a heavy question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will tell you my story. I grew up in a household that didn't think drawing will make a career. You know, I grew up in an Asian household that likes the typical go to the science route, maybe be a doctor or something of that sort. So, I always liked drawing, and I wasn't discouraged from it, but it was definitely something that my parents didn't encourage as a career. It's more of a hobby. So it was a little difficult, but coming from Taiwan, and I actually was born and raised there, and kind of knew what I had to like do to get myself on the art track. So Taiwanese over there, teachers are actually really well respected and honored. And when I was applying for college, I wanted to do art. There was no way my parents were going to let me do art. So then I was like, oh, I do art, there's a possibility that at the end of my studies, I will come out as an art major and teach art at schools. And with that, I was like, yes, that's the bullseye. And it really was, it really did help my parents, convince my parents to let me do art. And
well done.
So yeah, thank you. I'm very proud. Art wasn't really encouraged, but I was able to find a way to major in art. And when I came out of it, they didn't really expect me to find any art job. And it took me a while to finally show them that I can do it and that I made it in the industry. But yeah, I was a kid that didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I got to kind of figure it out as I go, and it was kind of fun.
Outside of work, what kind of hobbies, side hustles, or interests do you engage in?
Oh, yeah, I have several interests. I have this dog named Bear. He is so cute.
Yes, I can confirm Bear is very cute.
Thank you. He's so cute. But yeah, I love walking Bear and I love hanging out with him and showing him off. I also, I've done a lot of crafting, and I've designed my own cute version of the Justice League characters, and I made them into little buttons. So I've made buttons before, and I've also designed original characters that I would create into little felt plushies, and some of them would be ornaments, and some of them would be magnets. And there's this one plushie that I'm actually pretty proud of, and I hope I can say this here, and I'm going to say it anyways.
Okay.
But it's basically this blotch of blood with like cute little dotted eyes and cute little mouth on it with little cheeks. But it's just like red little plushy thing, and I call it the period friend. Yeah, the period friend is always there for you whenever you're going through a hard time, every 1 week a month. So yeah, when you're being that lady that you are and no one wants to talk to you, come and get this little plushie. Period friend will be there for you.
Finally, I have a friend during my period.
Yeah, I know. It's there for me.
Do you sell them?
I do. Well, I haven't been selling them because I can craft everything. So it does take a little bit of time for me to make them. But yeah, I've sold them before at different events. And if people request them, I will still sell them. And yeah, so I made plushies. And I also made I'm really into plants. So I've made little air plant terrariums and stuff. And I do a lot of crafting.
What do you feel are the next steps in your journey?
I actually started my journey wanting to be in art. As I deep dive in further and further, I decided my career, I want to do editing, which is also very creative. And I love being an artist in that way, but I don't get to actually draw on paper. So as much as I love being an editor, and I will continue to go down that path in my career, I think I want to take some time and start drawing for myself a little more, because I love working for a company and being able to create this thing with a team. I also really like to draw for myself and kind of express myself in ways that I can't in words. So I think I'm going to try to do that a little more.
Okay, now is the time for rapid questions, where I legit have this or that questions now, so no one can say otherwise to me. So I'm going to ask you a series of this or that questions, and you're going to answer them as soon as, Judy, as soon as possible.
Oh my gosh, okay.
Are you ready?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I'm so ready.
Here we go. Dog or cat?
Dogs. Really dogs.
Netflix or YouTube?
Oh, YouTube is free, and I'm always down for the free stuff.
When you reach out to someone, do you reach out by phone call or by text message?
Oh, phone call, old school, but So I guess I'm also texting. Phone. Yeah, maybe.
These are this or that questions, not a little bit of both.
I know it is a little bit of both. You know.
Okay, fine.
Dude, I like phone calls, but then like you have to give it the time. You can't just do like phones now. You're like super
No.
lame if you only calls.
No, as someone who has really bad phone anxiety, I am all about text messages.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Mobile game or console game?
Console. Yeah, definitely console.
When you go for walks, are you listening to music or are you listening to a podcast?
Music.
How dare you? You're on a podcast.
Sorry, I mean podcast.
All right. Good answer.
Yeah, I'm a liar.
Cake or pie?
Okay, yeah, that fluffy, sugary goodness.
Now, this is a question for if it was not a pandemic happening outside all of our windows. So pretend it's 2019. Big party or small gathering?
I like small gatherings. I'm not very good with too many people. Just too many things happening, it's too much work.
I hear you. When you load a new roll of toilet paper, do you like the toilet paper to be over or under?
Dude, it's gotta be over.
It's gotta be over. It's gotta be over.
Yeah, because you have to be able to see where it's coming from.
It's complete madness if it's under. And if anyone disagrees, please don't at me. I get frightened easily.
Yeah, no, I totally feel you. Like, why would you want anything upside down? You need it right side up.
You need it right side up. Exactly. Give me a word that starts with the letter Q.
Questions?
Cheater. Cheater. No, I want a different one.
Quadruple questions. Quadruple, yeah.
Oh, quadruple.
It!
Okay, that.
If you haven't seen Cobra Kai on Netflix, definitely watch it. It's so funny. The main character just screams quiet over and over again. Maybe not over and over again, but if you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. It's really good.
Ninjas or pirates?
Oh, pirates.
Why?
Don't know why. Don't know, but they just seem, I don't know, they're funny and evil, I guess.
Thank you so much, Judy, for speaking with us today. Do you have an Instagram you'd like to share?
Well, thank you for having me. Yeah, I can share my Instagram. It's JudyYangart. So Judy Yang Art.
And thank you, the listener, for tuning in. Please follow Creating in Color on Instagram and Twitter, and feel free to submit any questions for upcoming guests through our social media or our email, creatingincolorcast@gmail.com. If you are interested in following me, you can find me on Instagram and YouTube at Maybe It's Kaybe. And no, I'm doing the outro, little boy. Thanks to Namikaze for creating the theme song for this podcast. You can find more of his music on his SoundCloud at soundcloud.com/Namikaze, Namikaze. Thanks to Blaze for editing this episode. If you'd like to check out his gaming streams, please head over to twitch.tv/BlazeTheBrawler. Since Creating in Color is a new podcast, we appreciate any word of mouth or even helping push our hashtag on social media, Creating in Color Cast. And if you're listening to this episode before the election, please remember to vote. Vote early if you can. Vote by mail. Just make sure you get it postmarked by the election date or drop it off in a secure official drop-off box. And if you're voting in person, just make sure you do it safely. Remember to wear a mask, stay 6 feet apart, bring some water, bring some snacks, because you never know how long that line's going to be. For any additional voting resources, please visit vote.org. Before we wrap up, do you have any departing words of wisdom for everyone listening?
Yeah, sure. Just driven, be yourself, and good vibes.
Well said. This has been Creating in Color. Keep striving, keep trying, keep creating. Bye.
That's
Say
like
bye.
good advice. Oh, okay. Bye.